Okay, this is take 2 on recording chapter 9, question 1. It says, oh, I better move this thing out of the way here. It says, tell whether you think it is reasonable to have points between the ones on each graph. Explain your answer. Well, in this question, we have graph A and we have graph B. Graph A is labeled with the y-axis and the x-axis. The x-axis is called actually your D in this one for distance, and your y-axis is called C for this one under cost. So if you were to draw a t-chart like this, or a table of values, we would look at this and say, okay, the distance is going from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, etc. The cost is going to 2 to 4 to 6 to 8. So when I look at that, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make this one my distance. I'm going to make this one my cost in dollars. I'm going to label this just like that. That's distance in kilometers. I should have actually written out distance, but I didn't. Anyway, so we place all our values here. Now, because I chose distance first, we can say, well, distance actually starts with 0, so we have a 0 value, we have a 1 value, we have a 2 value, we have a 3 value, and we have a 4 value. And really, it doesn't matter that I have that there, just because I like it that way. I like to have my left column sequential from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., if I can. And my cost, if I look here, my cost is, when it was 0 for the distance, the cost was $2. This might be a taxi ride. If you go 0 kilometers in a taxi, just the taxi alone is going to cost you $2. Now, if you go 1 kilometer, if you go up here, it's kind of between the 2 and the 4, which means it's $3. At 2 kilometers, it goes up to $4 and $5, and if you look at 4, it's $6. So that's our table of value for the first question. And for the second question, we have our X, Y, and again, if I look here, this one's cost in dollars, and over here it's number of cartons of ice cream. And again, this is my sequential one, my x-axis. So I'll put N, which is number of cartons of ice cream. I'll put number of cartons of ice cream. Number of ice cream. Well, I just number of ice cream. That's the worst ice cream ever. And this one here is your C for cost in dollars. Again, I'm going to just kind of draw out my table of values here. And I have for this one doesn't have 0 cartons of ice cream. It has to start at 1. And then we have 2 cartons and 3 cartons and 4 cartons. For 1 carton of ice cream, if we go up, we see that it's $4. And for 2 cartons, we go up and we see it's $8. 3 is 12, and 4 cartons of ice cream is $16. So the question, going back to what it says here, it says, tell whether you think it's reasonable to have points between the ones on each graph and explain your answer. Well, what this is saying is it reasonable that I could split up these numbers here? Well, let's look at the ice cream first. Is it reasonable that maybe I could have this point here? So instead of having 1 carton of ice cream, I could kind of have we'll put a 1.5 cartons. Is that reasonable to say that, well, 1.5 cartons of ice cream would cost something around here, which probably is around, I don't know, $6. Is that reasonable to say? And the answer is no, probably not. Not mathematically irrational, but who's going to buy 1.5 cartons of ice cream? So the answer for this one is no, it's probably not reasonable that you would buy 1.5 cartons of ice cream. But in this question here, let's assume that we're talking about here. So for this one, I'll draw it down here again. 1.5 kilometers. Is that reasonable that we could go in a taxi cab 1.5 kilometers? And yes, it is possible that we would go that distance. And if we actually were to, the word is actually called interpolate, but if we actually go up here and look, we would see that probably it was somewhere around, oh, I don't know, $3.50. I'm just guessing too, so we'll say $3.50. Well, actually, it's a pretty good guess because I think that's what it really is for that. So for this particular graph, yes, it's reasonable that we could have points between the ones. So in this case, 1.5 would be reasonable for this particular question. 1.5 would not be reasonable here simply because of the units we're dealing with. This one's carton of ice cream, and that one is kilometers